The Lord is my shepherd. You've heard it at funerals. You've seen it on wall art. You've whispered it in fear. But what if I told you Psalm 23 isn't a comfort poem? What if it's a survival manual? And what if most people miss its real meaning entirely? Psalm 23 sounds peaceful, but it was written by a man who knew betrayal, violence, fear, and death. David didn't write this from a palace. He wrote it from memory and scars. Psalm 23 is not really about sheep. It's about leadership, protection, guidance, and what happens when someone else is responsible for your life. We imagine shepherds as gentle, but ancient shepherds were warriors. They fought wolves. They broke legs to save sheep. They carried weapons. David doesn't say the Lord is a shepherd. He says, the Lord is my shepherd. That's a declaration. Not everyone can say that. A sheep doesn't choose where it goes. It follows. Psalm 23 begins with surrender, not blessing. This verse has been abused. I shall not want doesn't mean you'll get everything. It means you'll get what keeps you alive. Sheep will eat themselves into danger. They'll drink poison water. They'll wander off cliffs. They feel safe until they're dead. God doesn't explain the path. He leads it. And Psalm 23 is a warning to those who demand answers instead of direction. If Psalm 23 starts with surrender, what do the dark valleys mean? Why does God prepare tables in enemy territory? And why does goodness follow instead of lead? Psalm 23 does not promise safety. It promises presence. And next, we walk into the valley most people skip. Psalm 23 didn't begin with peace. It began with surrender. And now we reach the line that sounds gentle, but hides something disturbing. The word is makes. Not invites, not suggests, makes. Sheep will not lie down if they're afraid, if they're hungry, if they're anxious, if there's danger nearby. So when David says, he makes me lie down, he's saying God removes threats, sometimes by force. Sheep don't rest because they understand. They rest because they trust or because they're restrained. Green pastures in Israel weren't fields. They were patches, temporary, easy to miss. God didn't lead sheep to endless food. He led them to enough, one day at a time. Still waters doesn't mean calm. It means controlled. Sheep won't drink rushing water. It terrifies them. Sometimes God doesn't remove the water. He slows it so you don't drown. This isn't about feelings. A sheep with a flipped back will die unless restored. Restoration requires contact, pressure, turning, intervention. Psalm 23 is comforting, but only if you accept control. Rest was never the destination. It was preparation, because next we walk into the valley of the shadow of death. This is the verse people whisper, the verse they rush through, the verse they hope never applies to them. But Psalm 23 was always heading here. David doesn't say if I walk through the valley. He says when. Valleys were normal routes in ancient Israel. They weren't mistakes. They were passages. David doesn't say the valley of death. He says the shadow of death. Shadows can't hurt you, but they can terrify you. Fear often arrives before the threat. Psalm 23 acknowledges that. Up to now, David says he leads me. But in the valley, he says, you are with me. In the valley, God stops being discussed and starts being addressed. The rod wasn't symbolic. It was violent. It was used to kill predators. The staff wasn't for enemies. It was for sheep that wandered too far. David says these things comfort him, not because they're gentle, but because they're effective. God doesn't remove the enemies. He sets a table in front of them. This is defiance, peace in the presence of threat. Oil wasn't perfume. It repelled parasites. It prevented infection. Overflow doesn't mean excess. It means there's no shortage even here. Up until now, David has been moving, but Psalm 23 ends somewhere unexpected. Not on the road, but at home. Psalm 23 ends quietly. No miracles, no victory parade, just a promise that follows you long after the danger ends. Most people think goodness leads them. Psalm 23 says it follows. David doesn't hope. He doesn't wish. He says, surely. Mercy isn't slow. It catches up. Not some days. Not church days. All the days. David doesn't say visit. He says dwell. This isn't about buildings. It's about belonging. Eternity doesn't start later. It starts when the shepherd becomes home. Psalm 23 isn't about dying. It's about living without fear. The shepherd never hands you off. He stays. The secret hidden in Psalm 23 is not the valley, not the table, not the house. It's the shepherd from beginning to end. If the Lord is your shepherd, you are never alone. You are always being led.